Good evening, Rutuja. We are going to start within 2 to 3 minutes. Let others also join. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So I guess we can start now as Davidisa is facing some weather issues. So that's why her network is not good. So she will not join today's session. So let's start. Just a second. Let me share my screen. Okay, so let's recap that what we have done in the previous session and then we are going to continue with it. So what we basically have done yesterday was learning about this use state hook. Why we use it? So that we can, this use state hook allows functional components to actually interact with the state or track the state. Okay, so this is the main thing over here in the use state hook that it allows us to track our state. Then what is the syntax for it? That first of all, we have any hook if we want to use in our functional component and the code are already written for them in a separate file. So that code we have to use in our particular code, right? So that's why we are going to import it. Like you can see in car.jsx, suppose if we are writing any component code, okay, then while using that component in app.jsx, what we were doing, we were importing that file so that we can access that code which was already there in car.jsx. Same thing is happening here. Someone has write the code for this use state hook, we are just using it. Okay, so when we are just using it, so we have to just call it. Like in programming language, we include header files. Same things we are doing here. This is also importing something. We are using ES module where we use this import, you can say, keyword. Okay. After that, initialize use state means we initialize our state by calling use state in our function component. And what it returns two things. First of all, the current state and a function that update our current state. Means if I am going to use a syntax like this, then what will happen? That they will append the current state as red. And when we use set color method, the second function over here, it what it will do, it will just change the color setted by our current state. Okay, that we have already done. And then you have all the idea about it, that how all the rendering was happening, what this example was doing. We are setting the color to red first, And then if I'm going to use the set color attribute, then what should happen? That it basically converts my color from red to blue. Okay. So on clicking on that button, if user are going to click on that button, what should happen? That it will convert the color from red to blue. Then what can state hold? So this is also a section like in last, we have just gone through very fast on it. So just a second, let me one more time tell you that what was happening over here. In this part, they were actually using 4 use case hooks to just store these value like brand value, model value, year value, and color value. And also there are 4 different functions through which we are going to change their value. Okay. But you, while using use state hook, we can just implement these 4 line code within one use state hook. How? By using objects. So that what they were
Sir,
discussing. Yeah. Yes, Noor.
sir, do we have to cover these topic by our own, like React forms submit, React text area, select multiple input,
Okay.
etc.
No, see, Noor, actually, like there are multiple topics, okay, but I am actually letting you know about those topics which are very important because we have specific time, right? So that's why I have not covered these topics like radio, portal, checkbox, because they are not much important. You are not going to use any one of them while creating your particular project based on React. Okay. So main topics over here are basically the component life cycle of components, and then how you are going to use hook. And also in hook there is use state hook, use effect hook, and use context hook. This is what up to which we have to cover. This is the important part over here. Over here, it will be good if you are going to looking into these remaining topics. Like suppose if this multiple inputs, checkbox, radio, portals. So if suppose I open this, then you can see there is nothing. Just you are using like a particular use state hook, okay, and accordingly it is providing you some output based on label. Like if you are creating a form specifically, it is based on particular form. If you want to use multiple input, then there will be a square form box which you can choose. So suppose here, like here you can see you can write any first name then last name, and it will show you the current values. So like this they are handling it. But it is not that important because you are not going to create a form like structure using this React components. Okay. So that you can do at your end if you want, but it's up to you that you want to do it or not. But that is not much important right now because hooks are important part of React, which you have to go through because this is from where like your interview questions comes also, like what is use state hook, what are the parameters, how you can change the value of like first index element or current state. So you have to just keep all the idea about these things, that what is dependency array, we will come to know in use vector. That is important. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So yes, this is also we have covered. So now we are going to start today with use effect hook. So basically, this use effect hooks allow you to perform side effect. Side effect means not directly rendering something on web page, but what is going while fetching the data. Okay, directly updating the DOM means not directly rendered, but it is associated with directly updating the DOM elements and timers. See, what does it mean by timers? Like suppose through use_state hook, you have rendered something to your web page, but use effect hook basically works when you want to change something on that web page based on some specific functionalities or some specific timeline. Okay, that can be happen through this timers function which we use in use effect hook. Timers like set time interval, clear timeout, that we are going to discuss about here. So use effect accepts 2 argument. The second argument is optional, means like when you are going to write the code about use effect hook, you have to pass 2 things to it. First of all, a function on which this use effect will work. And basically this function will be appended with a timer part. Timer means set timeout or a set time interval, this type of timer functions. And then this dependency array. This dependency array is basically optional part, but it actually handles that how many time your website has to re-render. Like one time it can be rendered, but this dependency array actually handles that part, that how many time it will get re-rendered or reloaded. Okay. So that will be more clear when we just go through with this example and then compare that what is happening right now and how dependency array will work. So first of all, you have to use state and use effect. That's why you are importing them from React library, correct? After that, what is happening? You have created a component, functional component having name timer. Okay. Now what is happening through this line? Let me just know that what will be the count value after this line. Like when this line will execute, what will be the count value initially for them? Chat box, please reply. Yes, correct. So basically what happened, that use state will set a current state as count to 0. Now through set count, you can change it. You have the idea about it. Now let's talk about use effect. I want to change it, but based on specific timing, I want to update it in directly on my DOM. Okay. So use effect hook, what it takes, first of all, a function and then the dependency array. Dependency array is optional, but we have to provide them the function. So let's write a function. It is a time-based function. Like you can see, the function is set timeout. And here what you are doing, that this set timeout basically takes the time in millisecond. Whatever is written over here, this 1000 milliseconds is equivalent to 1 second. So after 1 second, after see, first of all, your through this line, count will be set it to 0. Your page will render at your website. Then this use effect will take place. Okay. Then after 1 second, it initialize the count value to be increased by 1. Means count equal to count plus 1. How I am increasing the value? Using this set count property. So you can see, using this set count, I am changing the count value to count plus 1. Initially it is 0. After 1 second it become 1. After another 1 second it become 2, and so on. Now you can see here they have not used any dependency array. Like here, no dependency array is used because that was optional. But we are going to discuss that what is the use for using dependency array. Now return. What they are returning, I have rendered count types, mean 1 time, 2 time, 3 time. Every time this will render, it will provide us that output. So let's try to first execute this code. Then it will be more clear that why we need dependency array. Okay. Okay. So just go to car.jsx. Let me remove all the code from here. Paste it this one. There is no need to include this line, which because it is handled in our main.jsx. So I have removed that. After that, I have to export it. Export default and then the timer part. Okay. Now what I have to do in my app.jsx, I have to call my timer or import my timer function first, and then I have to use it over here. And one more thing I will do right now, what is happening, that our function is running for 1 second. I just changing it to 3 seconds. Like within 3 seconds, it will change the count value by 1 using set count. Okay. So let's see. First of all, I have to change the directory to React, and then I have to execute this. npm run there. Clear? Now when I execute it, you can see I have rendered 0 time is coming right now. Now after 1 second, 2 times happens, 3 times, 4 times, and so on. See, if you basically notice this thing, then you can ask that this is not going to stop because we have not provided any condition based on that it will stop. So right now it is working fine. But when the seconds, like these seconds will, you can say the number increases, it will fluctuate our, you can say, site. Okay. So that doesn't we want. We want to restrict it based on some condition. So that's why the concept of dependencies array come into place. Means right now what is happening, that use effect analyze that is there any change in your web page. So after 1 second, as there is any change, like count is initializing by 1. So you state again track that, okay, that something is changed on our web page. Again, it re-renders the website. Same process is going on until and unless we are not going to hook any dependency array inside it. How you state use effect will work? It will check that is our website re-rendered or not. Like it See what is happening at the starting. Suppose here, first time this will come to our screen. Then what will happen? Use effect runs at least once. Okay. At least one means this set timeout function will execute after 3 seconds and it will change the value to 1. Now, what should happen if you are not using any dependency array? That this use effect see that is something change on the web page. If the change is there, it is going to again execute the function inside it. Okay, that's why again and again use effect is triggering an event and this set timeout is executing again and again because there is no condition to stop that. It is not able to access that when I have to stop. So in that case, we basically use empty dependency array. Means I only want this website to execute once, or I only want this page to render once. Now see what will happen, that after 3 seconds, just notice the change. Now it is stuck over here. You can see what I have done. I have only used this dependency array as the second parameter of our use effect hook, right? It was optional. Right now I have given an empty array. Empty array means that I want to execute this part only once. Now, whatever content we are going to write inside this empty array, instead of checking that every time re-rendering, what use effect will check that is anything from the elements which are, suppose I am passing test and class. Right now, just a basic idea. These two are shared, suppose. So use effect will check that any of these two things have been changed or not. If any of these two things have been changed, then only it will execute the set timeout. Otherwise, it will not execute it. So this is how React works. Right now with empty array, it is thinking it as that, okay, one time I have to execute it. They have executed it one time. Then it will check the dependency array. It is empty means it is signifying that you don't have to check for any change. Means there is nothing changing over here in this dependency array. So that's why it has stopped and again not repeating the things like this. Like it is not again and again repeating that count to change by 1 after re-rendering. Okay, so let's discuss about it in the upcoming section. See, here they have also written, but wait, it keeps counting even though it should only count once. What they are saying that, okay, your event happened, you have returning something, and then after set timeout 1 second, you have changed the page. But after one time, like after changing the count value from 0 to 1, they must have stopped. But why they are not stopping? So use state run on every render means anytime there is a change in your website, it will affect your use effect hook. Okay, and it wants that again you have to execute this function. Now see, that means that when the count changes, a render happen. The count is changing means something is changing on website. So use effect hook will understand that they have to execute it one more time because something is changing at the web page, which then trigger another effect. Just read this line. Use effect runs on every render. This is clear. That means that when the count is changing initially, first time the count is changing, something has changed. So render is happening. And when the render is happening, this use effect again run. But when you are again running that use effect, what should happen? That count will increase from 1 to 2. Something again change, again use effect will run. So this is how it runs infinitely. So this is not what we want. There are several ways to control when side effect runs. We should always include the second parameter, which accepts on array. We can optionally pass dependencies to use effect in that array. Right now, see what is written over here, that if you have not passed any dependency array, it will run on every render. Correct? But if you pass any empty array over there, then what happens? That it will only render for the first time. It will not going to see that is there any again any change in your web page or not. It just execute this use effect once and then its work is done. But if suppose you want to change it, like whatever element you are passing, suppose if prop is changing or suppose if a state is changing, then you want to run this use effect hook that you can handle through there. Like you can write, you can read this command, run on first render. Firstly, it will run on first render, correct? Okay, because one time that has to be executed. But now when it will execute again, any time any dependency value change means anytime if any one of them will be changed, then this use effect is going to render again or run again. I hope that it is clear that when it is going to uh, execute multiple times, when it is going to execute for one time only, and when it is going to execute for specific condition based when any element from this specific array is going to change. Okay, so just let me know. Is it clear that why we use dependency array? If I have to only execute my use effect hook one time, then what I have to use? If I have to only run my use effect hook once, then what should I use as a dependency array? Yes, perfect, Rutuja. So, and if I want that to execute infinitely, then what can I use? Yes, no dependency array. Okay. So is the dependency array? Yes, like here in upcoming section, there is another example also. So we are going to discuss about it. Okay. Here, this one is a good example. We will try to discuss about it. Okay. Then it will be more clear. Yes, yes. No problem, Noor. I got your point. Just a second. When we will just move further, it will be just a second. Give me a second. Okay. So see, the same thing they have done over here, that what they have done, that you were using a timer function, and this time in this timer component, what was happening, that count is set it to 0 first. Okay. And through this use effect, you were using an set timeout function, and accordingly it is changing some things for you at each rendering. But now let's see about this example, then it will make some sense to you that what is happening. First, try to go through it. Here is an example of use effect hook that is dependent on a variable. If the count variable updates, then effect will run again. Means what they are saying, that in dependency array, they are using this count parameter. Every time this count will change, they will again try to call this use effect hook. So let's see it from the scratch. First of all, they are importing both of the use state hook and use effect hook. Okay. Then what they are doing? Then they are calling their counter function, which is a functional component. And through this line, what they can do, then they are appending the count value to be 0. And through this set count, they can change the count value. Correct? Now, what will happen? Yes. Now what will happen? See, through this line, count is initialized to 0 and set count we can use to change the count value. And through this line, what should happen? That we have converted calculation to 0, means we have set it the value of calculation to be 0, and set calculation is going to, we are going to use to change the calculation value. Basic syntax to use the use state hook. Okay. Now see what is happening. There is a use effect hook. We will come to this part, or let's understand that what is happening over here. in this use effect hook, we have to share a particular function as a first argument. So here is the function. What it will do, that using this set calculation, what they are doing, that they are creating a button. Every time that set calculation function will be called, what should happen? That it change the count value by 2. Okay, this is happening. And every time this count change, they will call this function again and again. So let's try to first see this bit of code. Then we will understand that what is written over here. Okay. Now see, first of all, count. We are creating a count tag and it initialize us the current value of count. So initially, what is the count value? 0. So what happened over here, that we will get this count as the label and then 0 as its value initially. After that, a button will be created. On clicking that button, see what is happening. On click, if we are going to click on button, what it will do? It is changing, means it is using the set count to change the value of count. Correct? It is using the set count to change the value of count. And how it is going to change? That they are implementing this count as C variable. And when the C, like when we use the set count, they will change our C value by 1. Means change the count value by 1 whenever user is going to click on this particular button. Now see what is happening, that when this use effect hook will trigger, when user is going to change our count value. For first time it will execute by default. For first time, what will happen? Count value is 0 and you are multiplying 0 by 2. So 0 into 2 is 0. So for the set calculation, for the first time, the set calculation value is also 0. With count is 0, set calculation is also 0. But when user has clicked on this button, then count value has changed to 1. Now use effect will check that is there something inside dependency array which has been changed. So yes, you can see here through set count, you have changed the value of your count variable. So if count is changing, then again this part will execute. What will happen? Now count value is 1. So 1 into 2 is 2. So set calculation will become 2. So as soon as user click on that button, what will happen? That count increase by 1 and set calculation will increase by multiple of 2. So that is happening through this particular thing. And right now you are just clicking that, like set the calculation and give me the value of this calculation. Initially, both of them will be 0. As soon as we are going to click on this particular button, the value will change. So we are going to just, first of all, execute these things. Then it will be more clear. And then again, we will elaborate this bit. Okay. So just a second. Yes. So what we can do from here, I just changing this bit of portion. What is our component name? It is right now timer. Oh, sorry, counter. So I have used counter over here. Now in app.jsx, what can I do? I can use counter over here also. And also I have to change this part. What we have done? We have just changed the values accordingly. Just a second. Okay, sorry for the interruption, guys. Yes, I was saying that this thing we have done. Now, if I go to the output part, see here, what is happening? We are getting count as 0. We are getting calculation as 0. How we are getting it? Because they have also defined it over here, like in car.jsx. If I go, they have initialized this as 0 and count calculation also as 0. Same thing we are providing here. But now suppose what I will do, I will click on that button part. What will trigger? Set count will trigger. Through set count, what we are doing? We are changing the count value. So if count value is changed by 1, suppose if count value is changed from 0 to 1, use effect will trigger. Okay, and what it will do, it will see that okay, the count value is changing, you have to also change the set calculation. So for set calculation, it append count is 1 into 2. 1 into 2 is 2. Okay, so that you will instantly get here 1, here 2, and in multiple of 2, whenever you are going to click on this button, it will change. See, for 1 it is giving 2, for 2 it is giving 4. Every time, like I can refresh it, I can start from 0. Every time I am just clicking on this button, what is happening? It is giving me the multiple of 2, but it is not making anything. Like I am clicking somewhere else, still it is not giving the output. Every time I'm going to just click on this button, then it will trigger my set count. And only while I'm going to trigger this particular set count thing, then this calculation count will be triggered by our use effect. Okay. So this is happening over here. Just go through the code once and it will be clear to you like how we are using it. Okay, just go through the code once and let me know, is there any doubt?
Sir,
Yes, Noor.
but if we remove count from the use effect in the last, so then it will
Yes.
the React part work correctly, like it worked before.
Okay, you are saying that you are removing this count part from at their end. And if now
Yes.
you will do, so you can see the change. Calculation is not, you can say, rendered at our end. See, calculation is not changing. In use effect, we are basically dealing with our set calculation part only. So you can see it is not changing the set calculation part. Why set count is working? Because you can see we are using on clicking one button, this set count is triggering. And every time this set count is triggering, it will change the value of count. So only that part is working over here. See, calculation is still 0. But if I add count now, like see, if I add count over here now, then it will basically work for both of them. Like as soon as count increase to 13, it will change the calculation 13 into 2 means count into 2. You can also change any number you are going to, any operation you will perform here. They will give the output according to that. So is it clear, Noor? Just a second. Let me just tell you that what is happening. Wait. Okay. So if you are typing some doubt, then you can also type. Then otherwise, I will just let you know that what is happening here. You are typing something, Noor. Count completely. Then it work the same as before. Okay, just a second. If I remove this dependency array from here, now, see, after removing this dependency array, what you are telling them that every time you have to render use component. Then there is like, see, now what will happen that yes, you are correct. Like now, if I increase any time, every time, then what is happening that this is changing by 2. But here you are not basically using any dependency array. So if in this case, if I use suppose outside this function, if I use set time out function means like if I use set timeout and then it will change the set count value by default by like suppose if we are using set time interval over here, okay, and it is going to change every time after 1 second, then what will happen that it is also going to execute for the infinite number of time. So that's why dependency array is good. Right now through this example they are just showing you that if you are going to use dependency array, then only whatever is written inside dependency array, when this thing is going to change, then only React is going to re-render your website or going to use your use effect hook. So uh, I just want to tell you through this example that suppose if this dependency array we haven't used in previous example, that what was happening, that it was running infinitely time. Why it was running infinitely time? Because there was use effect hook over there, and it was using a timer, and timer is going to execute after a set interval of time. Means after 3 seconds it was executing it again and again. Right now what is happening, we are, if suppose right now I am not using my you can say, here we are not using dependency array. What according to you is happening, that it is running infinitely time. Still it is running infinite time, but right now it depends on another variable. Until and unless this count value is not going to change, how can it change the total value for your calculation? So that's why it is restricted, because it depends on something else. See what is happening here, no time interval is used, right? Set calculation is a function through which you can change the calculation, but also set calculation is also right now depend on a variable which is count. Until and unless you are not going to change count, it will basically trigger this. Suppose if I make it 2 into 2, now let's see what output we are getting. Just a second. So are you able to see? Right now also count is working, but set calculation has been fixed from here. But if I add any time interval over here, that after specific time interval, change my value accordingly, then it is going to change that. So you can just go through it once and let me know that what are you not getting in this use effect hook. Okay, then I will try to rectify that issue and let you know that how we can overcome that. Right now you are saying that if I say, then it is working completely as before, as it is working with the count array, right? But it is happening only on this particular scenario where you are not using set timeout interval, because it is not going to execute infinitely time if you are not giving them the basic time interval. After 1 second, it is not going to re-render. It is going to re-render every time only if this value will change. Why? Because see, suppose if right now also it is executing multiple time, but count value is fixed. Count value is fixed mean count value is 13 right now. If suppose at 13 we have stopped this count value, so it is working as a constant for it. So, means what I want to say, like here also, if I make it count value constant, I make it to 2. Now what is happening? It is running infinitely times, but there is no use because we are able to get only the constant value over here. Same is happening through count. If we are writing here count also, at a fixed point of time, if you are not going to click on a particular button, this count value is fixed. Fixed means that suppose 13 is fixed, then it is going to render 26 infinite times. And it is happening at our end also, that this is changing according to this only. So don't make it complex for you. Just remember one thing, that dependency array basically helps us to control that how many times this use effect is going to execute. Okay. If there is no use effect used over here, then it is going to run multiple times. And multiple times also you have to check that what is the function we are passing. If a function is basically providing you a constant value, like here we are getting a constant value, that how you can see the change, that what is changing. So that's why you are not able to in this particular scenario, you are not able to get the different output for it. You are only seeing it that it is working same as the previous one, but there is difference in both of those scenario, because right now your use effect will working infinitely. You are not able to just see the change in the web page. That is the out difference only here. Okay. Yes, Noor. Like a particular example where the dependency array is significant to use. Like we have already discussed about this example. See, here in this example, the first example over here, see what is happening here, that if you are not using dependency array, that what was happening, that it is increasing your count by 1. Okay. So in that case, if I don't want my timer to stop at after a specific interval of time, you want your timer to stop, right? So suppose if I take this example one more time. Wait. I'm taking this example one more time. Let me just execute this example. Here it is. The name is timer app.jsx. Here timer and here timer. Right? Now see what is happening in this case. No dependency array has been used. So each and every second, what is happening? They are changing the time. Correct? After some time, this number will become in very huge. So it will affect your site. Okay, like see if we wait for some time, then you can also see that there will be change while rendering this page. Right now it is rendering it smoothly, but when we cross a particular limit, then we can see with every render our page will also fluctuate. So to stop that, we have to keep a particular condition that at what time we want to execute our use effect hook and how many times we have to use our use effect hook. Okay. So that is done by conditional array, your dependency array. Right now, first way of doing it, that if you want to stop it only at once, then you can do this part, like you have added empty array, correct? This is one thing. Then there is another thing that I want to basically change this like I want to call this use effect hook when some another thing change in my, you can say, program. Like suppose if here I write, it will be more good when I add a set counter. We have added right now, it will execute only for one. Okay, means at 54 it has stopped. Whenever you have introduced this set, if I refresh it, then it is going to only work for one. Like I have rendered 2 times. It will just stop over here and not execute again. Why? Because you have used empty dependency array. Now, what is the work of this empty dependency array? That you only want to call this use effect to once. That is happened. Now it is stopped. But now, if you want this use effect hook to again re-render, then you have to post like pass some elements in this dependency array. Now, what is the dependency array will do? It will, suppose if I am going to write here count, then what it will do? It will search that is the count changed after first evaluation, is the count changed? So if the count will be changed, then only it is going to execute it. Otherwise, it is not going to execute it. Okay, that's it. The use of dependency array, and that's why it is optional. Like why they have make it optional, because the same point, like you were seeing that for some like previous example, what was happening, that it was giving, if we are writing the count part over here, then it is also working the same. But if we are not writing that part, then it is also working the same. So that's why they have make it optional, that there is that it is not mandatory that you have to use it only in your program. So in that case, it is optional. But if you are using any set timeout, means you are using any timer functions, then you have to append that so that you can control over there that how many times you want to re-render your website. Okay. I hope now it is clear that why that is optional, because sometimes it do the same functionality like in the previous program it was doing that, which you can say notice that it is also working with the count dependency array, and without count dependency array it was also working the same. So that's why it is optional. But when we are using the set timeout intervals, then we have to basically make sure that we pass some dependency array so that our website will not re-render so many times that it can fluctuate the website. Okay, just a second. Okay, so is it clear to you, Rutuja, also? Just let me know. Okay, okay, perfect. Now just a second, we are going to continue with next part over here. This we have already done, this count part we have done. Now, effect cleanup. Effect cleanup means sub effect requires cleanup to reduce memory leaks. Memory leaks means memory usage. Like if suppose there is a variable you have assigned, okay, and you know that the work has been done for that variable, then you can delete that from the memory so that it basically helps you to manage memory part, okay, and reduce the memory leaks. Same is happening over here. Timeouts, subscription, event listeners, and other effects that are no longer needed should be disposed. Means the answer you were asking previously, that suppose if I have to only re-render one time or I have to use effect for once, then whatever function you are using inside it, you can just clear the scope of that function so that your memory will be managed well. Now, if we are going to see this example, you will that will be clear to you that what is happening over here. See, import use state and use effect from React. We have done it. Then we are using a functional component timer. Through this line, the count value has been set it to 0, and through set count, we can change the count value. This is clear to everyone here presented in the session. Now see, through this use effect hook, what is happening? See this bit of portion first. There is a timer in which there is a variable having name timer in which you are calling set timeout function. Okay, what this set timeout function is doing, that you are using empty dependency array, means you only have to execute this bit of code for the one time. Okay, and what it will do, it will increase your count value from 0 to 1. Like here we have appended that value to 0. Now I only want to change that value from 1 after 1 second, and then the scope for this function has been done. So you know that you are using dependency array, that you have to only execute it for once. Then what is the use to keep this function inside your memory? Okay, so you can free up this space. How you can free up this space? You can just use clear timeout. Means whatever timeout you have created, you can just clear that with the name of that timeout. Okay, so they have done exactly the same thing. This is not going to change anything in your program, but it is basically affecting your memory leaks. It reduce your memory leaks part, and it manage your storage. Basically, while managing with computer, we have to think about two things. First of all, the time, and then the space. So these are two complexity we also learn in data structures, like what is time complexity and what is space complexity. So we have to keep those things in mind, that our program will be such that it also manage our space of our memory. Okay, so let's try to execute it, and let's see what is happening after executing this part of code. Just a second. Okay, the timer is same. What they are doing right now, if I just also exclude this line from this code, there will be only one thing, that this timer will be this timer will be there in your memory. But if you are using this clear timeout, then after the render or after the work is done for this timeout, that will remove the scope for it. Okay. So basically what will happen that your memory space is now free. And that is a good practice. If there is a variable which is not in use, then you can just delete its scope. I have rendered one time and then it is stopped. You know that you have stopped it. So what is the use to keep this timer part? Because it is taking some, you can say in process, it is waiting for it turn. Okay. So for that, to clear this set timeout interval, you going to use clear timeout function, which basically takes the name of your timeout and delete that or clear that timeout. Clear? Why it is needed? Because we have to reduce the memory leaks. What are memory leaks? That we have to enhance our storage part. We have to make our memory usage optimized. Okay, so for that we will use this clear timeout function so that we can clear the timeout part, whatever we have set it through set timeout. Just a second. Okay, wait. Yes. So now to clear the timer, we had to name it. See, now someone can ask that why we are just using this timer name over here, because we have to clear it. And how I can clear it? By giving the set timeout name, that inside this variable, my timer is stored. Okay. How many arguments does the use effect hook accept? Just answer me this, that how many arguments are there in use effect hook? Option A, option B, or option C? Arguments in use effect hook. Here it is, option A, option B, option C, that how many arguments does the use effect hook accept? Okay, correct, Rutuja. So out of that, which one is optional? Yes. And which one is optional? No. Dependency array is optional, right? And dependency array is basically the second one. Optional means that you can use it up to your choice, that if you want to use it or not. Clear, guys? Okay, okay. Yes. So that is correct. Now we can just move to next part over here, which is use context hook. React context is way to manage state globally. Means whatever state you are appending, it will manage that state globally. It will assign that globally, and whenever you are going to use that, or whenever you want to use that particular variable, it will give you the value for it. So let's see that why first we need this React context or use context hook. So it can be used together with use state also to share state between deeply nested component more easily than use state alone. The problem. So let's discuss about this problem first, and then I will let you know that what they are trying to say. See, state should be held by the highest parent component in stack that require access to state. Okay, let's try to figure it out over here. Then I will let you know that what they are saying. See, in this function, what is happening that you are created a component one. Okay, the functional component is component one. And what is happening that here you have defined a user as Linus. Okay, you have suppose you have assigned a user name to Linus over here. And what you are doing, you are returning the h1 tag hello, the username, and calling your component 2. Means what you are doing, whatever is defined there in the component 1, you are calling your component 2 with that particular user value. Here user and then the value for it. Okay. Now what component 2 is doing, as it have to just take the value of user also, so it will, you are sharing it as prop, so it also has to mention the prop so that it can use it value. just go to the, just remind the concept of prop. If anything we are sharing like this, then we were using the name that of that particular prop over here when we are defining another component, right? So here in component 2, you are calling it with a prop, but not using that prop. You can see they are simply using component 2 over there. But the prop name which you have used as a user is not displayed during this program. Okay, no problem. What they have done, they have again used component 3 and shared the name of user which they have accessed through there and called the component 3 inside component 2. Now let's go to component 3. Component 3 is again using the same user, you can say prop, and now they are printing that. See, what is the problem with this bit of code is right now, suppose there are three functions only, and what you are doing, you have declared something in component 1, and all the component are nested component, means component 1 is calling component 2, component 2 is calling component 3. So that's why what you have to do, what are the value of users is assigned in the first component, you are sharing them one by one to each and every component while their call time, so that you can use it whenever you want to. Means here you have also passed it in component 2, but in component 2 you have passed it, but there is no use of it. You have just passed it so that you can use it with component 3. So this is basically the problem for it. Right now what is happening, that you are passing each and every prop to every component so that at last you can use it into another prop also. Right now there are only 3 components. Suppose if there are 10 components and I want to print hello the username in first component and hello the username in last component, which is 10th component. So what are you doing, that you are in every other component between 1 to 10, you are passing this prop value and again calling through this prop value. This is not a good syntax. Okay, this is known as prop drilling, that you are passing prop to each component whether they are using it or they are not using it. So this is the problem with this nested components part. So now if you try to go through this part, then it will be clear to you that what is the problem. State should be held by the highest parent component in the stack that require access to state. We will come to this line. To illustrate, we have many nested components. As you can see, we have many nested components. Each component is calling another component. The component at the top and the bottom of stack need access to the state. What they are saying, that suppose if the component 1 wants to render the username and component 10 wants to render the component name, but in between 2, 3, 4, and so on to 9, you are sharing the props with them also. To do this without context, we need to pass the state as props. Means to make assure that the user value from first component will be passed to the 10 component, we have to pass the username through each component so that we can also console that in component 10. Through each nested component, this is called prop drilling. Means every time you are passing this prop to a component which is not using it, that is known as prop drilling. Right now there are only 3 components, still you can see they are using it again and again, they are sharing the prop. This concept is known as prop drilling. To solve this problem of prop drilling, this use context hook come in picture. How it solves the problem, let me just first tell you about that. They will just initialize this parameter globally. Okay, and then whenever you want to use that particular value in your component, in any component, then directly you can use it. Suppose there are 20 components and a variable is declared globally. In the 18th component, I have to use it. Then I can directly call that global component and it will basically provide me the output. But while doing the same thing through our props, what problem we were facing, that every time we have to pass the prop, that concept is known as prop drilling, and that is not an ideal solution for it. So the solution is create context using use context hook. Okay, so let's try to see this part, that what is happening over here. This is the good example, like full example. Let's see what they are doing. globally they have created a constant context. Like you can see, they are using use state, create context, and use context. Use context basically use create context along with it. See what they are doing, user context and calling the create context function over there, so that you can create a context globally for it. Okay, now see what is happening. Function one component is there. What is happening over here? You are assigning them the name that the user is Linus. Okay, now you are returning something like this. What is happening in this particular part, that user context dot provider value as user means I want this value of Linus to be used globally. So that's why this syntax has been used, like user dot context dot provider. Through this provider parameter, you are assigning this value to all over the program. Globally means you are just appending this globally. Okay. And if you are using it, then you have to also close this particular component part. And see, now they are calling component 2 directly. Component 2 is directly called without any prop. Then they are calling component 3. And suppose so on, there are multiple components like up to component 20. Then at the time of component 20, you want again to use that name. Okay. So how you can do it? By just this bit of code. In component 1, in parent component, what you have done? You have write this kind of code using user context dot provider that set this value of user to be globally globally set this value of user to be Linus. Okay, and whenever I have to use it, I will just use it by this particular syntax. What is the syntax? That use the context means use the value from this particular variable user context. Okay, and then you can see they are storing that value of user and again using that in their program. What is happening? They, through this bit of code, they have make it globally accessible throughout the program. And when they want to use that, they can use this particular bit of code that use context hook with the user context part, so that it can have create context also over there, which is making that globally using provider. Okay. And then you can fetch the value for it. I hope that it is clear that what first of all, just let me know that are you able to understand that what was the problem if we are not using use context hook? Okay, and what about you, Noor? Okay, so what do you understand, that what is the problem? Can anyone let me know that what is the problem according to them? They are able to get that this is the problem coming, prop drilling, and when we use context, then we declare it globally so that it can be reusable. Okay, perfect, Noor. That is the good example. So, but I don't get properly that create context and provider things. Can you? Yes, yes, Rutuja, no problem in that. I just come over here so that I can get an idea that is the problem is clear to you. Then only we can go through with the solution part. Yes. So prop drilling, you all know that what is prop drilling? That if you are sharing prop inside another component at their call, then it is known as prop drilling. And if you are not using that prop, okay, you are calling, that is good. But if you are not using that prop in that particular component, this is something which we have to rectify. Okay. And same thing is there. So just recap that up to now what we have covered, and then we will move to the last part over there. Then we will just end this session. So I will ask one by one from both of you that first of all, we have learned about use state hook. Okay, so I will start with use state hook first. So just have a 2 minutes break and go through all the concept that in your mind that what is use state hook, and I can ask any question regarding that. When you are ready, just raise your hand and I will let you know that what is the question, and then you have to answer that. Okay. Okay, so are you ready, guys? Okay. So my first question is that how many like use state hooks returns what? Use state hook returns an array. What are the elements of that array? Let me know about that. Two values, current state and function. Yes. And that function is basically going to update your current state. Current state add function that was updated. Yeah. Like through that function, you can update the current value. Correct. After use effect hook, uh, just let me know that what are the three rules for hooks. You can also raise your hands, and instead of typing, you can let me know while unmuting yourself. The three rules. There is no problem if you have forgot any one or two of them. Just go through that how many uh, of them you can recall. Okay, so that we can just check that. Okay, how many is remember?
So can I tell?
Yes, yes, Rutuja.
So the first thing which can be inside in a React function component.
Yes,
Second, it cannot be conditional, means we cannot
yes,
use in a conditional. And
yes.
third thing, it can be used in a top level of the component.
Okay, okay, perfect, Rutuja. Yeah, that is the correct answer. See, when I just go through that first time the rules of hook, then there was the third rule, like React hook can't be conditional. That part I uh, always forgot. Why? Because it like in the starting time I just try to learn it instead of understanding it. Okay, so that's why I just forgot that particular portion. But when I come to know that okay, that this is known as conditional rendering, and okay, that's how React like why hook don't do conditional rendering. So then I come to know that okay, now I can just remember this for the long period of time. So it is good that instead of learning, if you are going to deep dive into that concept at your end, then it will be there with you up. So that is a great way to just memorize things with the concepts. Okay. Now after that, just let me know what are the two parameters in use effect hook. Function and dependency array, which was optional. Okay, perfect. Okay, guys, so that's great that you have got an idea about it. Now, again, after that, if I want to ask, then in use effect, like use effect is done. in use context hook, just let me know that what was the problem if we are not going to use that use effect hook. Like we can simultaneously we are doing those things with use effect and use state. Then what is the need for use context hook? Yeah, to make sure that we can solve the problem of prop drilling. What is drilling? You can explain that to your to the person who is taking your interview, that we suppose if there are 10 nested components and we want to console the data of any user in the last component and first component only, then through prop drilling we have to parse those props within each component. That is not a good way. Instead of this, we can make them globally and then we can use it, and that we can only do through our use context hook. So that is good that all the concepts are clear with you. So let's try to see. Rutuja, you are typing something. Okay. So now let me just tell you that, yes, Rutuja, what was your doubt actually? Wait, let me just check over here. So, but I don't get the properly that create context and provider things. Okay, okay. See, this is a part of syntax first of all, but let me tell you that why they are using this one and this one. This is what you are asking. So first of all, if I talk about provider, while using this provider, basically what you are indicating that whatever value is here, you can provide that to any component which is there with the parent component. Like they can provide that particular value to any nested component over there. Okay, this is the first thing to use provider. Now, why we are using this create context? This create context basically creates a channel. Like what type of channel? See, what is happening to make it globally? They are basically, first of all, creating it like we have to use context. See why, where they are using use context here. Here they have to use it. So when you are going to use that use context hook means before that you have initialized something globally. Okay. That is the meaning. How you are going to use it? That something is initialized globally and you want to access the value. So to access the value, you are using use context. Correct? To access that value, you are using use context. But to define that globally, through this particular channel, you are creating this create context. You are using that create concept context with provider, so that provider can distribute it to all other components over there. And this create context is basically making it globally so that when you call this use context, then it provide you that particular value which is set it globally by create context. Okay. If you are using it, then uh, then what you were asking, Rutuja? This was the same thing you were asking or something else? Is it clear now? Like, see, before using it, like, first of all, we have to declare it globally. So for globally declaration, we have created that check. Yeah, okay, then it's good. And when we have to use that value, then we are just using use context. Okay. And why this provider is used? Because this provider is basically providing your data to all the components. Whenever you want to use it, you can use that. And this is basically the syntax, the opening parenthesis, the opening component tag and the closing component over there. So this is the part of syntax which you have to, you can say, remember. But why they are using create context, why they are using provider, why they are using use context, that thing must be clear at your end. Okay. So this is it from here. And now there is one question. Let's try to do it. Complete the code to create and use a context provider. Okay, let's try to do it. they have used in use state, they have used create context. Now, first of all, let me know that if you they want to use context hook, then what should be written over here? So just out of that, write the correct answer over there. Then, as I am in my third year of engineering and I'm preparing for internship at Plainman, and DSA seems horrible to me. That's why I'm learning web dev first, then go with the DSA as in on-campus placement. It is important. So, sir, can you tell which type of question asked regarding web dev for SD placement and internship? See, first of all, also I am a final year BTech student, no, and see, up to my experience, I can assure that one thing, that it based company to company, that which type of company you are targeting. Suppose if you are targeting any fan company like Google, Facebook, Amazon, then they will ask question more related to your tree part. Okay. uh, Graphs part, that is something important. From there they ask the questions. And if you are targeting any low level company, then it is basically important that you have covered all the basic and moderate level part. Okay, then it is, I guess, covered at your end. So instead of trying to deep dive into each and every concept, just first make sure that you have the knowledge for each and every concept, that what are trees, what is graph, hash maps, and accordingly try to solve as many questions as you can, so that you can practically implement that into a solution. Okay. And for placements, like as I already told you, that it depends on company, that it's also on luck, that suppose if there will be a question based on array linked list, then it is bonus points. It will give you confidence, as well as you have to solve only few questions over there. So it's up to you that on which particular company you are giving an interview. Just you have the knowledge of each and every type of data structure over there, and also their implementation part. Then only you can do that. Okay. So right now for SD roles, I can guess that tree and graphs are the hot topics, you can say. From there, the question must be there in your technical round whenever you are going to face an interview. So have a command over that also. Now, see, if I put use context over here, then it is correct, because I have to use this use context over here. Now, what they are doing, const user context, now create context. Okay, so that you can create the channel for it that you can provide. And if I go over here, then you can see that these are the correct answer. Okay. Okay. So I guess that this is sufficient for today's session. Like we have already covered two main types of hook, use effect and use context. Okay, let me just stop sharing my screen. Tomorrow, we will have some basic introduction about Node.js, and then I will let you know about what is the project which I have to assign you. Like tomorrow is Friday, I guess. Yes. So I will assign you the project accordingly tomorrow, that what you have to create for this week. And on Monday, we will take the presentation, as the first week has already been done. And one more thing, like there is a PDF circulated at your group, 55 pages just now, like by ma'am. So just check it, okay? And you have to also create it at your end. Just go through it. Like suppose that is for data analytics students. So what you have to do, like week one you have presented, or week one you have completed, you have to create a report according to that particular structure, where you have to mention that what tech stack you have used, what are the topics you have covered in that particular project, and then the screenshot of the basically code part, and as well as your output screen. Okay, so just go through that PDF, then you will be able to get that what I am saying right now, it is shared in your respective groups. Okay. Okay. Or is there any doubt regarding to this session? Then let me know. We will take that first and then we will wrap the session. Otherwise, we are good to just wrap the session for today. Okay. Thank you, Rutuja. Thank you, Noor, for joining the session. We are going to connect tomorrow at 6 p.m. sharp. So, thank you so much. No, no, no. Like Noor, see, uh, this internship program is basically structured like you can get a revise. See, for revision, it is made like you can get the revision of all the important part because at last you are doing an internship, so you have to also work on at your end, right? So it is not. I don't say that it is sufficient because it is all the concepts you are learning here are theoretical concepts, right? When you are going to create the project at your end while watching some tutorials or taking any other's help, then it will make some sense to you that how we are implementing those topics which we have learned theoretically. Okay, that's why it is based on theoretical plus practical implementation. If we don't assign you project, then I can guarantee that maximum of the students are not going to create project based on that tech stack which has been covered during that time. Okay, and also we can't just change the structure of internship because multiple students are there who are not revising the concept, who are learning the concept for the first time. So keeping that in mind, also we have to also create our structure. Okay. So it will be good if you give time to these specific topics after the session also so that you can also implement them practically. More than that, it is important that you have the knowledge of that particular code which you have written over there. Why? Because see, right now AI is all over there. Okay, anyone can write the code. But most important thing is that how are you going to explain that to the other person who is there in front of you? The presentation skill are right now important. So that's why you have to also give some time to these topics at your end and then possibly you can just implement it to your project part. That's how you can learn a specific topic, first the theoretical portion and then the practical part implementation of it. Okay, so I guess we can just wrap this session, guys. So thank you so much for joining. Now you can leave the session if there is no further doubts.